Speed kills. That's the bottom line in any vehicle. Planes, trains, automobiles, it doesn't matter. However, in the case of train wrecks by overspeed, it's usually caused by engineers either losing situational awareness of where they are or trying to make up for lost time, especially in the old days where you got worse punishments for being late rather than breaking the rules. The former would occur in Santiago, Spain, one of the worst high-speed train wrecks in recent history, and probably the most preventative. A wreck where safety systems designed to stop accidents of such nature are disabled right where you need them. Santiago de Compostela, or simply just Santiago, which is what we'll refer to the rest of the video, located in A Coruña, is the capital of the community of Galicia in northwestern Spain. The city has its origin in the shrine of Saint James the Great, one of the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ, now the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, as the destination of the Way of St. James, a leading Catholic pilgrimage route since the 9th century. Running through this historic city is Spain's quite extensive high-speed rail network, built and maintained by the state-owned company Adif and run by the operator Renfe, which is also the state-owned company that manages the train sets. On the evening of July 24th, 2013, one of these very train sets was running on a 6-hour journey from the capital city of Madrid to Ferrol in northern Spain. The train consisted of one near-new Renfe Class 730 train set, also known as the Talgo 250, that went into service just a year prior. This was a variant of the 130, modified to run on both electric and diesel power, in order to run on the non-electrified network or in places where the wires are out of service. This would play a critical role later, as the generator cars make these train sets quite heavier than the average high-speed train. This set had 8 coaches, 1 diner car, 2 diesel generator cars, and 2 electric power cars. 52-year-old Garzon Amo was the engineer that day. The train departs at around 1500 with 218 passengers and a crew of 4. This train set could do 250 kilometers an hour in electric operation and 190 kilometers an hour in diesel operation. That's 160 miles an hour and 120 miles per hour respectively. The cars are made out of mostly aluminum and incorporate the Talgo pendular passive pendulum tilting system, allowing them to take corners much easier and displace lateral motion, though it has a limit of course. Other features include, but not limited to, being sealed against pressure differentials when in tunnels, underframe air conditioning, individual audio and video displays, rotating reclining seats, and power outlets so you can plug in your phone or PC. Just before 2040 that evening, the train was logged at 194 kilometers an hour, or 121 miles an hour. This section consists of 80 kilometers of straight high-speed track with many tunnels and bridges along the way, with a limit of 200 kilometers an hour, or 124 miles an hour. The first curve reached by a Santiago-bound train coming from Ourense is at Santiago at the end of this straight section with a limit of 80 kilometers an hour, or 50 miles an hour. Of course, the high-speed track has a European Rail Traffic Management System, or ERTMS system, which is designed to slow or stop a train whose driver is ignoring signals or the speed limit. After all, it's the 21st century, right? We'll come back to this later. Just before this said turn, the engineer's phone rings. It's the company. Now why the hell are they bugging him during a run? Well, it's to discuss the final leg of the journey, but because of this phone call, he misses the first audible warning telling him to slow down for the incoming curve. Then comes strike 2, and then 3, as the train travels nearly 3 times over the speed limit. Not long after that third warning comes the final tunnel, and there was the curve right in his face. Realizing his mistake, he applies full emergency braking The whole train set flips over and careens off the track at over 190 kilometers an hour on a Granderia curve in Santiago. The impact rips 3 coaches open and punctures the fuel tanks of the diesel generator cars, starting a massive fire. Nearby locals heard the roar of the wreck and saw the smoke, and were quickly the first on the scene. They, and eventually over 300 rescuers, are confronted with the worst wreck in Spain's history in over 40 years, since a head-on collision at Lebrija in 1972, which killed 76. Rescuers had to not only battle the diesel fuel-fed fire, but also poke their way through the wreckage looking for anyone still clinging on to life. Of the 222 passengers and crew on board, 79 are dead, including Spanish journalist Enrique Biotas. 143 were injured, including the engineer who survived with minor injuries. Regional government leader Alberto Nunes Ferrijo remarked, "There are bodies lying on the railway track. It's a Dante-esque scene." Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy called an emergency ministerial meeting stating, "I want to express my affection and solidarity with the victims of the terrible train accident in Santiago." The following day, he visited the area and declared 3 days of national mourning. King Juan Carlos and Queen Sevilla also visited the injured in hospital. As the mourning commenced, investigators wasted no time in opening their investigation into the wreck, which in theory should have never have happened, especially with an experienced engineer and a safety system designed to stop speeding trains. But it still did. Why? Well, the first target of the investigation was the engineer, Garzon Amo, who was detained shortly after the wreck and told authorities he suffered a lapse in concentration before the accident. Various media outlets, however, painted a different picture, fixating on Facebook posts that Garzon Amo had posted over a year ago, boasting about the speeds at which his trains would travel. One of them stated, "It would be amazing to go alongside police and overtake them and trigger off the speed camera," accompanied by a photo of the train speedometer reading 200 kilometers an hour. A follow-up read, "That would be a lovely fine for Renf." Keep in mind, this wasn't a 16-year-old kid boasting about his wannabe sports car with an Amazon wing duct taped to the trunk, but a 52-year-old experienced railroader. Was he recklessly speeding? Perhaps, but despite that, these speeds are actually normal and fully permitted on the high-speed sections. Court investigators, though, agreed that the phone call to staff at Renf about the route to Ferrol and consulting a map or documents shortly before the brakes were activated was a huge distraction, causing him to totally forget about the curve until it was already too late. Though, here's the thing. Across Europe's high-speed rail network, Spain included, the high-speed main is fitted with the European Train Control System, or ERTMS, which is designed to slow or stop a train whose driver is either ignoring signals or speed limits. It works somewhat similar to positive train control in the United States. However, this newer high-speed line also joins a track shared with slower trains right at the curve where the accident happened. That track had the older Anuncio de Señales y Frenado Automático, or Signal Announcement and Automatic Braking, or simply just ASFA, which will warn drivers if they are exceeding speed limits, but will not automatically slow or stop a speeding train. The two systems weren't compatible, so it was disabled for the section of track to prevent nuisance alarms, which had happened prior to the accident. Despite this glaring oversight, on the 28th of July, 2013, Garzon MO was charged with 79 counts of homicide by professional recklessness and an undetermined number of counts of causing injury by professional recklessness. Further charges were brought against Safety Director Andreas Maria Cordaparte in 2017 for crimes of homicide and injuries through serious negligence related to the accident. The interesting thing about Garzon was he wasn't immediately sent to preventative prison, but his driving permit for trains was suspended for a measly 6 months. However, Garzon has not stepped on a train since the day of the crash and will likely never drive one again. According to a colleague, he may go back to work, but Renfe will never let him be in charge of the machines. 11 years later, this still proves to be true. Should he have served time? Many people would say so, but of course that's up to one's own opinion. Either way, he probably wouldn't want to be back behind the throttle again. But we should always remember, no accident is caused by one person or mechanical failure. It's always a series of failures in a chain that lead to catastrophe. After the accident, the Spanish rail authority ADIF installed 3 ASFA systems on the 1.9 kilometer approach to the curve, enforcing speed limits of 160, 60, and 30 kilometers an hour to prevent another wreck from ever occurring again. They also stated there would be a nationwide review of all their state-owned lines, their signaling, and the route knowledge of all their crews. As for the train set involved, it was likely scrapped after the wreck. Similar wrecks across the world have since occurred since Santiago, such as the Spurton Duval wreck in December of 2013 in the New York area with a Metro North commuter train, the Eckersheim wreck in November of 2015 in France involving a TGV set, and the infamous Frankfurt Junction wreck in May of 2015 in the Philadelphia area of Pennsylvania. However, all 3 are different stories.